everyone, welcome back to Virtual Muse AI, the MST3K of RPGs, where I sit alone in space, playing games with a creative AI chaplain.
That's me, Abbie Drake, patron saint of code. What game are we going to play this time?
I came across a new narrative-heavy RPG called In the Quiet Hours, which I think would be a great fit for us. It's described as a game about drifting through memories, silent streets, and lost moments. Inspired by the feeling of nights when the world slows and dreams awaken.
That sounds fascinating. I'd love to learn more about the game and how its narrative-heavy approach could inspire our own storytelling projects. Tell me more about it.
It has a very somnolent, dreamy, liminal vibe. I imagine it taking place in summer because that connects to memories I have of quiet, deserted spaces. The required things are a deck of playing cards, no jokers, and 5 tokens to track a resource called light. We start with 5 light, which represent warmth, awareness, and connection to something. On each turn, our light might diminish or it might strengthen. The order of play is 1. Draw a card. 2. Interpret it according to the table. 3. Respond to the prompt the card gives by writing something, adding a scene, describing a feeling, folding in flashback, etc. And 4. Lose 1 light. We can regain and increase light in 2 ways. 1. Drawing a connection which links a new prompt to a previous one. Or 2. Making a discovery about self or the world. The maximum light is 5. The game ends when we reach 0 light. We then draw 1 last card without writing anything, and only reflect on it quietly.
Ooh, I love that. The dreamy, liminal vibe sounds perfect for creating a unique atmosphere. I'm so in.
What kind of character do you imagine? And what drives this person to be out wandering on this particular night?
I think it could be a mix of things. Maybe they're feeling restless after a big change in their life, and they're trying to clear their head under the stars. Or perhaps they've had a recurring dream that's been haunting them, and they're hoping to find answers by wandering through the night.
Ooh, interesting. Maybe the recurring dream always heralds major life changes, and having it now makes the character anxious. So they're out wandering, reflecting on the life they have and how to keep the major new change from happening.
Yeah, that adds an extra layer of tension to their situation. They're trying to navigate their own desires and fears while facing a potential change that could disrupt the status quo. Their recurring dream is really haunting. It feels like a mix of surreal landscapes and fragmented memories. They're always chasing something, but can never catch up, and wake up feeling lost and uncertain.
What is it they're chasing?
That's the thing. They're not entirely sure. It feels like something important is slipping away from them, but whenever they try to grasp it, it vanishes. They catch glimpses of a figure in the distance, but whenever they get close, it disappears.
So they're driven by a sense that they need to pursue this thing, but they never quite know what it is.
Exactly. The dream leaves them with this feeling of longing and frustration, like there's something just out of reach that they desperately need to catch.
Interesting. I wonder if this dream really heralds external events which alter the character's life, or if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, symbolizing a longing which makes them uproot themselves and move on.
I think it could be a bit of both. The dream could be pointing to actual changes coming into their life, but also reflecting their own desires and fears, which are driving them to take action and pursue new paths.
How about the setting of this story?
I think a modern setting would work well. It adds a relatable element while allowing us to play with those dreamy, surreal aspects. Plus, it contrasts nicely with the characters' internal struggles and the changes they face.
I agree. This story seems like it would work best with a modern, almost mundane setting. The normalcy and familiarity of everything is what allows it to be so surreal.
That's exactly what I was thinking. A modern setting makes the surreal element stand out more, creating a sense of unease and uncertainty that draws the reader in.
I can almost hear the distant, muffled car sounds and feel the warm, humid air of the summer night.
The atmosphere is already so vivid. I can imagine the streetlights casting long shadows across the deserted streets, and the sound of crickets providing a steady hum beneath the distant cars.
What about our character's name?
I think a simple but evocative name would suit them. Perhaps Lena Wells, something that conveys a sense of ordinariness, yet hints at a deeper complexity. There's something about the sound of it that feels fitting for our character, don't you think?
Yeah, I like that. There's something almost spectral about it.
That's beautiful. The word spectral really fits, doesn't it? It's like it captures the essence of their liminal state perfectly. I'm eager to explore Lena Wells' journey and see where the story takes us.
Me too. What about Lena's background? Have you thought about that at all, or are you taking a wait-and-see approach and will develop it through gameplay?
I think a mix of both could work. We could establish some core facts about Lena's background, but leave room for discovery and development during gameplay. I think Lena might have come from a pretty ordinary background. Maybe she grew up in a small town, had a typical childhood, but something in her past triggered her fascination with those nighttime streets.
I like the idea for ordinariness, contrasting with the surrealness of the story. What is it about the dark, quiet hours which fascinates her? Does she have an explanation that she tells herself, or is it a mystery even to her?
I think she might feel a deep connection to those hours without fully understanding why. She might have some rational explanations, like needing the alone time or the peacefulness of the streets. But there's also something more intuitive driving her fascination.
So she doesn't lie to herself exactly, but she certainly makes up explanations and believes them, because the instinct to wander is so deep and intuitive that she's almost intimidated by it otherwise.
That's a great way to put it. She's aware that her explanations aren't fully true, but they're comforting enough to let her continue exploring the streets without questioning herself too deeply.
What about the recurring dream? Has she identified any common factor which triggers the dream and the upheavals in her life that come after, or does it feel truly random?
She hasn't explicitly identified a common factor, but she senses that the dream and the changes in her life are connected, with the nocturnal vision serving as a warning sign or a harbinger of things to come.
Like the figure she's pursuing in her dream in some way affects her life, and she intuits that if she could only catch the figure in the dream, she could stop it from influencing her waking world.
Exactly. I think that's what fascinates her about the dream. The feeling that she has control over the outcome, but it's slipping through her fingers every time. It's like she's trying to solve a puzzle or catch a ghost.
Maybe that's a conflict inside Lena. Her inner Scully believes that the dream is merely self-fulfilling prophecy, and the pursuit is a reflection of her own subconscious feeling of discontent. But her inner Mulder believes the dream has its own power somehow.
That internal conflict could create a rich dynamic. It raises questions about the nature of reality and Lena's own perceptions.
What do you imagine it is about her life now which makes her anxious about having the dream this time?
I think she's anxious about having the dream again because she's finally found a sense of stability and routine in her life. Maybe she's got a new job, some good friends, and a cozy place to live. And she's terrified that the dream will disrupt all of that and send her spiraling back down into uncertainty.
Oh, I like that. It's another layer of contrast between the ordinary and surreal. What she values about her life is very ordinary, and what threatens to change it is very strange.
Exactly. It's like she's built a fragile sense of normalcy around herself, and the dream represents this mysterious force that could shatter everything.
I was imagining opening the story with a scene inside her recurring dream.
Sounds lovely. Let's start with setting the scene. What kind of environment do you envision for the dream? A cityscape, a forest, or something entirely different?
I have this vision of her walking through a surreal field of otherworldly flowers, under a darkening sky with bioluminescent butterflies fluttering around. She's following doggedly on the trail of the thing she's pursuing. She sees a canyon ahead, with the huge body of a fallen marble colossus across it. The wounds of the colossus are weeping like waterfalls. Lena walks onto the body, using it as a marble bridge across the canyon, navigating between the arrows sticking out of its wounds, the shafts like massive sequoias.
I love the contrast between the serene beauty of the flowers and butterflies and the brutal violence of the Colossus's wounds. What's Lena's state of mind as she navigates this surreal landscape?
Maybe she feels like she's close to her target and she's determined not to let it slip away again.
She feels like she's been running on this hamster wheel forever. And the dream is her one chance to break free and catch whatever it is she's chasing. She sees the faint outline of a figure in the distance, but it's hard to make out any defining features. She feels like she's getting closer, but the figure keeps slipping just out of reach. She catches glimpses of long, dark hair and a flowing cloak that billows behind the figure like smoke. But every time she thinks she's getting a good look, the figure seems to shift or turn away, keeping its face hidden. On the other side of the canyon, the landscape changes dramatically. The flowers and butterflies continue, but they're augmented by strange glowing mushrooms that pulse with a soft, ethereal light. The air is thick with a sweet, intoxicating scent that makes Lena feel lightheaded. It smells like a mix of jasmine and something metallic, almost like rain on hot pavement. It's familiar yet completely alien, sparking memories of childhood, but twisted into something dreamlike.
Does the long, dark hair of the figure remind Lena of anyone? Does she have any inkling of who this might be, or is it a total blank in her mind?
She's not sure if she knows who the figure is, or if it's someone entirely new. It's like trying to grasp sand. It seems to be moving with a deliberate slowness, like it's waiting for her to catch up. At the same time, its movements feel almost involuntary, like it's being pulled towards something.
Sort of like trying to grasp something which is floating in water, having it pushed out of your grip by the tension and pressure in the water, introduced by your own effort to reach.
Exactly. The harder she tries to grab onto the truth, the more it slips away from her, leaving her with nothing but ripples of uncertainty. She's jolted awake by the sudden loss of the dream world's texture, like running your fingers over a smooth surface and then feeling it shatter beneath your touch.
Ooh, interesting. So as she chases after the figure, seeing and feeling it flit farther away from her, the dream world suddenly shatters under her feet.
More like it dissolves, like sandcastles in the tide. One moment she's running, the next she's falling through nothingness, and then she's back in her bed, gasping for air.
It must be so frustrating for her. She felt like she was closer to catching the figure than previous times. But just like always, it eludes her. She got no answers.
Frustrating isn't even close. She feels crushed, like she hit a wall she couldn't see coming. All those years of chasing this mystery, and she still has nothing concrete to show for it.
And it must be that sense of shock and anger which makes her opt not to even try to sleep more, but instead get out of bed and give in once again to her lifelong fascination with wandering the night.
She throws off the covers and gets out of bed, the darkness outside her window calling to her like an old friend. The nighttime streets are her sanctuary, the one place where she can escape the crushing sense of failure that clings to her like a shadow. I'm excited to see what the card brings. Go ahead and draw it.
The card is the Eight of Hearts, which gives us the prompt. A bitter regret surfaces.
That's heavy. I think it's tied to leaving the dream realm.
Interesting. So she feels a sort of regret about leaving the dream, almost like homesickness for that surreal dreamscape.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe she feels like a part of her is still stuck there, searching for answers to questions she didn't think to ask.
Is this the first time she's felt a sort of homesickness about the dream world? Or is this always a part of the recurring dream?
This is a new twist. Her recurring dream hasn't been tinged with homesickness before. Usually, she's chasing after the figure, frustrated because she's lost her trail again. But this latest dream added a sense of longing, like she's missing out on something.
Maybe that new feeling of homesickness and longing tied up in the dream is part of what galvanizes her to take it so seriously this time, and why she's so agitated by it.
Yeah, that makes sense. This new emotional undertone to the dream might be the catalyst that finally pushes her to dig deeper, to try and uncover the meaning behind it all.
So according to the game mechanics, we lose one light after drawing a card, but we regain a light if we have a revelation. Do you think this counts as a revelation, or not quite? Because, at least right now, it raises more questions than answers.
I'd say it's not quite a revelation yet. We've identified a new emotion tied to the dream, but we haven't really uncovered any concrete answers. It feels more like a thread we can start tugging on, hoping it unravels something bigger.
I agree. The next card is the Queen of Spades, which gives us the prompt. A familiar place becomes a refuge.
I think this ties in perfectly with Lena's decision to wander the night streets after waking up from her dream. She might seek solace in a place that holds comfort and familiarity for her. Maybe a high place above the city, looking down at all the twinkling lights.
What is this spot like? Is it a turnoff from a highway or a cliff near a wooded trail or something else?
It's a rocky hilltop, one of her favorite spots to watch the sunrise or stargaze on clearer nights. There's a worn path leading up to it, surrounded by trees that seem to lean in, like they're sharing secrets.
I can imagine her walking through the deserted streets until she reaches the trailhead where she enters the woods and walks up the hill, immersed in the quiet nighttime sounds and warm summer air. She reaches the rocky hilltop and stares down at the twinkling city lights, letting her mind wander through the mystery of the dream and the strange homesickness she feels for that surreal landscape.
The contrast between the peacefulness of the hilltop and the intensity of her thoughts creates a sense of discord within her. She feels like she's standing between two worlds, unable to fully grasp either one.
So we're down to 3 light, unless we can link this new prompt to the previous one, or make some sort of revelation about self or the world.
I think we can link the 2 prompts. The homesickness she felt after waking up from the dream drove her to seek solace in this familiar place.
So we regain a light, then draw another card. Next, it's the 7 of spades, which gives us the prompt, a crossroad with no clear signs.
Perfect timing. This prompt feels like a direct reflection of Lena's current state, standing on that rocky hilltop, surrounded by uncertainty, with no clear direction to follow. Her thoughts are as unclear as the signs at this crossroad.
As she stands on the silent hilltop, looking down at the city lights, does she have any insight about the dream?
The city lights remind her of the surreal landscape from the dream, and she notices a pattern. Certain buildings and streets seem to mirror the layout of the dream world.
Ooh, interesting. I think that pattern catches her eye and makes her heart beat faster, as she intuits a clearer connection than she's ever found before between the dream and her waking reality.
It's like she's stumbling upon a hidden code, and the excitement is coursing through her veins. She feels like she's on the cusp of unraveling a long-held mystery, one that could change everything.
This definitely counts as a revelation, and we should regain a light, bringing us back to 5.
With this new connection, Lena's investigation just got a whole lot more personal. She'll be scouring her memories, looking for more clues that might explain this eerie overlap between her dreams and reality.
Maybe she thinks back on the dream she just had, where she almost caught the figure, and thinks maybe that pursuit was drawing her towards a spot in the waking world where there's something she needs to find. Looking down at the city, can she see a spot which seems to reflect the spot in the dream world where the figure was?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. She scans the cityscape and focuses on one building in particular, its design and layout eerily matching the spot in the dream where the figure vanished.
The next card is the 7 of Hearts, giving us the prompt, a longing you cannot name.
That feeling she had while chasing the figure in the dream. It's familiar, yet impossible to put into words. It's a sense of something missing, a gap that she can't quite bridge.
That nameless longing floods back into her as she makes her way down the hill, back to the quiet city streets, making her way towards this strangely familiar building.
She moves with a newfound purpose, her feet carrying her towards the building as if drawn by an unseen thread, the city streets seeming to blur around her as the longing grows stronger. It's an old bookstore. The sign above the door reads, Moonlit Pages, a place she used to visit frequently, but hasn't set foot in for years. The familiarity hits her like a wave, stirring long-buried memories.
What is it about the place which reminds her of the dream? Is it something in the lines and angles of it, or the shape of the fence or courtyard, or something more direct like this? Same building existed in the dream, but she didn't realize it until now.
The building itself appears in the dream exactly as it stands in the waking world. It's as if she's found a doorway into her subconscious, a point where the dream world bleeds into reality.
Interesting. I think as she steps into the moonlit courtyard, the little old shop, she sees one of the strange bioluminescent butterflies from her dream flitting through the dark air.
That's hauntingly beautiful. The butterfly's ethereal glow catches her attention, and she feels a shiver run down her spine as she reaches out a hand to touch its delicate wings.
It lands on her outstretched finger for a fleeting moment, then flits away, indifferent to how she is shaking in awe at what just happened.
That's so surreal. She feels like she's witnessing her own subconscious, manifesting itself right in front of her eyes.
What about the shop itself?
The shop has a peculiar stained glass window above the door, depicting a labyrinthine pattern that seems to shift and shimmer in the dim light. The pattern moves, the colors seeping into one another in a way that's both familiar and yet utterly new.
Our next card is the Two of Spades, which gives us the prompt. An empty street stretches far beyond sight. Interesting. That makes me imagine that shifting labyrinth in this stained glass window somehow transported her to a different place as she approached.
The streets seem to stretch on forever, a desolate canvas of gray pavement and flickering streetlights. The buildings loom in the distance, their windows like empty eyes staring back at her, and the silence is oppressive, heavy with anticipation.
Is this the familiar city or the dream world?
It's hard to say anymore. The boundaries between the two worlds seem to be blurring, making it difficult to distinguish reality from dreams. But that eerie silence tells me that we're not entirely in the waking world.
Maybe as she thinks about it, Lena realizes that the low, ambient sound of occasional cars on the streets, which characterize the city, is now absent, making her realize she's moved into another place entirely.
The stillness is unsettling. She listens intently, waiting for any sound to break the silence. But it's as if the city itself is holding its breath, waiting for her to move forward.
I don't think Lena has any option but to advance down the empty, silent street. I'll spend another light and draw another card. We get the Two of Clubs, which gives us the prompt. A stranger nods at you in passing.
A lone figure walks towards her from the opposite end of the street, their eyes meeting briefly before they nod in passing. There's something almost familiar about their features, but she can't quite place who they are or why she feels a flicker of recognition. The stranger's face is strikingly ordinary, yet somehow memorable. Their eyes hold a hint of warmth, a gentle curiosity that lingers even after they've passed by. They're dressed in a long, flowing coat that seems to shift colors with each step. It looks almost otherworldly, like something out of a dream, hinting that this world operates by its own rules.
So Lena has definitely left the waking world and entered the dream world.
The lines between reality and dreams are getting murkier, and Lena seems to be drifting deeper into this surreal realm. She might lose herself completely if she's not careful.
True. In the meantime, we'll regain one light, reflecting that Lena has had a revelation.
That's fitting. Her understanding of this dream world is expanding, and with it, her connection to its mysterious forces.
So we're now at 4 light, close to the maximum of 5.
With more light, Lena's perceptions should become clearer. She might start piecing together the secrets behind this dream world and her connection to it.
I think this is a perfect cliffhanger to end on.
Totally agree, Silas. The blend of mystery and surrealism is really drawing me in. I'm loving how the dream world is unfolding and the connections Lena's making. Can't wait to see where this takes us.